Hark well, as I tell you the tale of Belakor, first damned. May his forgotten true name be forever cursed. In his arrogance, he drew the gaze of the Chaos Gods to this world, bringing damnation upon us all.
Belakor, first damned, Dark Master, the King of Shadows, the first of his kind. Cold, calculating, callous, cruel. A scorned figure whose schemes have affected most of the significant events in history since the beginning of time. A name so ancient that not even the wisest and oldest of scholars can recall all of the terrible deeds enacted out by his hand. Belakor is truly one of the most ancient and mysterious figures in all the lore, both in Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k. It is known, from tattered scriptures and folk tales, that Belakor was raised from mortality by the sheer combined will of the Chaos Gods. What obscure deeds or what bargain he made to achieve this is unknown. Being the first demon prince to ever exist, each chaos entity poured part of their powers into his creation. And because of this, Belakor's fate and loyalty have forever been influenced and manipulated by the ruinous powers, beholden to each of them equally. The first mortal that pledged his soul to the Chaos Gods recreated him in their image, that of the first demon prince. The ruinous powers offered Belakor greater and greater power to barter a deal for commanding their armies and enacting their will. But the first demon prince deceived them. He took their gifts, or shall we say curses in disguise, and then fled back to the mortal world without fulfilling his bargains with the Chaos entities, carving out a dark legacy that would span over centuries. With the first of the damned unleashed, and without a one true master, each of the Chaos Gods fought over Belakor selfishly. Eventually, they realized the folly of combining their powers into a single vessel of evil, as Belakor proved to be uncontrollable, never swearing his allegiance to any one of them. As Belakor fought and spread his dominion in the mortal planes, darkness followed, and the influence of chaos grew stronger and stronger throughout the world. As time passed, many aspirants and champions of the dark forces emerged, many of them worthy of the gifts of the Chaos Gods. Each of the Chaos Gods raised their own demon princes in an attempt to create their most loyal subject, and in turn they would challenge and oppose the first of the damned on many occasions. Where he reigned unchallenged before, there were more and more challenges to fight as time passed. What's more, with each new servant of darkness that was granted new powers or gifts, Belakor felt his own powers diminish as the gifts bestowed upon him were stripped away and granted to more loyal servants, according to the desires of each Chaos God. But Belakor remained the strongest and most powerful of them, moving in the shadows and manipulating history to further his own unknowable agenda, or maybe to enact what seemed to be the will of the ruinous powers upon the universe. As Belakor fought other challenger armies of chaos comprised of mortal men and creatures not from this world, he cemented his power. But this allowed the High Elves of Ulthuan the chance to better defend themselves during the terrible event known as the Great Catastrophe, where chaos energies flowed freely and abundantly into the world, almost drowning it forever in madness, despair, and total annihilation. With the forces of chaos divided, the High Elves took the opportunity to marshal one last desperate attempt to stem the tide of chaos. The creation of the Great Vortex that would siphon magic from the world. With the eventual creation of the Great Vortex, paid in blood and sacrifice, the dark powers were drawn back into the Immaterium, along with all creatures made from the raw stuff of chaos, including the first of the damned himself. Time passed. Nobody knows how much, as time itself in the warp is ever-changing and something impossible to describe. But it is believed that the King of Shadows' essence drifted through the realm of chaos indefinitely, until he beseeched the ruinous powers once again to send him into the mortal planes to do their will. But the Chaos Gods were not deceived this time, and they gave him a fit punishment. Unlike other beings of his nature, the first of the Dark Princes would leave the realm of chaos not at his own will, but only at the Dark God's wishes. What was worse, he only was allowed to enter the mortal planes to be the one sent to crown the mortal destined to become the ever-chosen of chaos. Under this cruel condition, BELAKOR has materialized into the world to lead entire armies under the command of the ever-chosen of chaos, only to be banished to the Immaterium once more whenever the mortal champion is slain in battle and the ascendance of chaos stops in the mortal world. No one can truly tell for how long this has happened. It is a torment that goes on and on for the first of the damned. It is believed that 12 times now has BELAKOR fulfilled his twisted destiny as the harbinger of doom, each time attempting ultimately in vain to escape his preordained fate. Nobody truly knows BELAKOR's true intentions or his motives, and his origins are seemingly lost to history, coming from fragments of legends, rumors, and tales, or through the discovery of forbidden lore in ancient crypts. Primitive drawings or statues found in the caves of dead worlds often hint at BELAKOR's reign throughout the galaxy, lurking in the darkness behind the rise and expansion of many mortal races. But perhaps only one thing is barely understood by the scholars and psychers driven mad by studying BELAKOR. Jealousy. Jealousy towards anyone or anything that can win the favor of the ruinous powers. He has undermined and spoiled the schemes of the mortal and demonic servants of chaos for millennia. However, whether if this is his own true free will, or if he is just an instrument in the great game between the dark gods, none truly knows. Perhaps not even BELAKOR does, for he is probably blindly chained to the eternal machinations of the ruinous powers. A thirst for pleasure and power ultimately drives the terrible actions of the first damned, as he plots from behind his veil of lies and shadows.
BELAKOR, Chaos Demon Prince, has known many different names. He is a creature who wields unholy weapons and abilities, and a figure who once commanded legions of unnatural things.
In more recent times, it is rumored that BELAKOR shadows the new champion of the ruinous powers, Abaddon, the Despoiler. The Demon Prince has watched the prominent rise of Abaddon and his subsequent fall to chaos, manipulating the ebb and flow of history surrounding Abaddon, so that their fates would eventually cross, even during Abaddon's infamous Black Crusades through the galaxy in the grim dark future of the 41st millennium. BELAKOR's actions have aided Abaddon to rise in power and succeed in his terrible war. but a deeper investigation reveals the possibility of darker motives behind his actions. Is Belakor plotting against Abaddon in some way, seeking to undermine the gods of chaos and claim power and the glory of the conquest for himself? When the truth of Belakor's treachery will reveal itself is known only to the King of Shadows himself. When Belakor chooses to manifest his colossal physical form, he strikes with rending claws and the infamous Blade of Shadows, a gigantic sword that shifts in and out of its shadowy and physical forms at a mere thought of its master. As the blade blinks between solid and ethereal silhouette, it can slice through scales, flesh and armor with ease, while the prey is petrified in complete horror. It is unknown whether the Blade of Shadows is one of the many gifts bestowed upon Belakor by the ruinous powers before his fall from their grace, or if it is part of his malignant form. The first of the damned is a terrifying opponent on the battlefield. He flickers in a constantly changing shadow of smoke and illusion. For mortals, they are sapped from their resolve as they fight against a formless ancient terror. If one is caught within proximity with the first of the damned, one can only hope for a quick death as he slices his victim in half with the Blade of Shadows and rakes with claws of powerful psychic energy through the meat of the mind. Exactly what Belakor and his winding plot seek to achieve in these uncertain times is, like so much about the first Demon Prince, unknown. Only time will tell. And that time is nearly upon us.
He is the first, the harbinger of doom. Where he treads, the shadows right, and the light flees in terror. Speak not his name.